Welcome to the Excel Workshop Session 1. In this session, you will be introduced to some basic definitions, and you will learn how to change the number format, autofill a series, and organizing tables. Let's start. The Excel file can be called a workbook because it contains sheets. In this file, we have 3 sheets: definitions, number format, and organizing tables. The Excel sheet is also called a spreadsheet, and it's made of rows and columns. Rows run horizontally across the worksheet and ranges from 1 to 1,048,576 rows. A row is identified by the number that is on the left side of the row, from where the row originates. Columns run vertically onwards across the worksheet and ranges from A to XFD. We have 16,384 columns in total. A column is identified by a column header that is on the top of the columns from where the column originates. The small boxes here in the worksheet where we enter the data are called cells. It's the intersection of a row and a column. A cell is identified by a row number and a column header, such as D17, the column D and the row 17. The name box here, as you can see, normally displays the address of the active cell, which means if I activate any cell here by clicking on it or selecting it, for example, this cell, the name of this cell now appears in the name box B2. See? B2. Now let's take this block of shaded cells. The reference of this block or range of cells can be represented by the address of the upper left cell, which is C5, and the lower right cell, which is F10, separated by a colon, as you can see here. Now, if I want to write the reference of all shaded cells or colored cells here, which means this block and this cell D17, we can write the reference of the block, comma, the reference of the cell D17, since the block and the cell are separated, so we have to put a comma between the two addresses. We have to put a comma between the reference of the range and the reference of cell D17. Now let's define some parts of the Excel window. The title bar, where you can see the file name, the menu bar, and the toolbar. The toolbar changes each time you select a different item from the menu bar. Now the scroll bars, this one for up down and this one for right left. This is the formula bar. You can use it to enter or copy an existing formula into cells. We will come back to this later in the coming sessions. Now let's use the autofill command in order to complete series of days, months, and numbers. Let's do the following examples. In the yellow range of cells, we need to fill this range with a series of consecutive days. In order to do that, we select the cell that we wish to autofill, which is here the cell C45. Move your cursor to the bottom right corner of the cell. It will turn into a solid cross. It's good to know here that when the cursor is a white cross, you can use it to select cells, while when it's a solid black cross, you can use it to autofill cells. So again, we move the cursor to the bottom right corner of the cell. Now we click and drag the cursor to as many cells as we need. Now let's repeat the same method for the green range of cells. So we click and drag. As you can see in this case, when you autofill here, the number is repeated as many cells as I drag my cursor. Now for the blue range of cells, we can see that we have two values here, 2 and 4 in these two cells. This means we need to fill this range with even numbers starting from 2. In order to do that, we need, first of all, to select both cells here, G45 and G46. After that, we move the cursor to the bottom right corner of the selected cells and then click and drag when the solid cursor appears. Now let's move to the next sheet. Number format. Now again, let's autofill the cell A23, but this time we need to fill it horizontally. We will repeat the same method, but this time we will click the solid cursor and drag it horizontally. Again, for cell A25 and B25, we select both cells and then we will just click the solid cursor and drag it horizontally. Now for cell 27, let's repeat again the same method. Click and drag. As you can see, for dates as well, we can create a series using the autofill feature. But as you can see, in the cell D27, we notice these hashtags that are appearing inside the cell rather than the dates. There are no errors here. This only means that the content of the cell is bigger than the cell width. We can solve this problem either double-click on the left border of the column D header for AutoFit. Double-click. Or we can just click on the column D header and shift the cursor to the right and increase the column width as much as needed. So let's fix this one as well in F27. So let's double click here. Now in row 29, we have non-consecutive dates. Let's apply the same method now to autofill. Select both cells, then click on the solid cursor and drag as many cells as needed. We got here a series of days, a new date for each 14 days. Now let's autofill the cell L2. I want to fill this range of cells by consecutive month. So click when the solid cursor appears. Click and drag as many cells as required.